Hey guys, Barrett here from Pickleball Kitchen. Yes, it is true. I have finally switched pickleball paddles. For the past, close to 3 years now, I have been using the Prince Response Pro. I did a review on this paddle a long time ago. I've probably gone through 4 of these paddles since then. They have served me well, but it is about time to switch to another paddle. Now, back in May, I released 4 videos throughout that month, and I was playing with the Diadem Warrior during that time. That was my review period. What you guys have not seen is the paddle that I have been playing with outside of that review period as well, and especially in June. June is when I was really testing out this paddle, and I am finally ready to show it to you. The paddle that I have been playing with and the paddle that I have officially switched to is the Gearbox CX14. This is one of the best paddles I have ever played with. Now, before we go any further, if you're new to this channel, I just need to explain something real quick so that you understand. I do not do paddle deals with manufacturers. I don't do that stuff. My opinions and my reviews of these paddles have to be objective as possible. There are a lot of people that want to see their paddle on my video, and I know that the financial incentive there can potentially corrupt my review. So I refuse to take any money from the manufacturers because of this. I want to make sure that my relationship with you guys is as healthy as possible. In exchange, feel free to subscribe. Thank you very much. But so I get these paddles for free. You know, they send them to me in the mail. They sent me like 5 or 6 of them, but the ones that I want to talk about are the CX14. These are the new ones from Gearbox. How do I even begin to talk about Gearbox? They are truly unique. Picking up a Gearbox paddle is similar to picking up like a Pro Kinetics paddle. The moment you pick it up and the moment you hit the ball, you know you're playing with something that is different. Most paddles on the market have a polymer core, plastic, that's wrapped with an edge guard, and then 2 little pieces of balsa wood go on top of the handle like this, and it's wrapped up. It's glued on there and it's wrapped up. That is like the basic sort of recipe, I guess you could say, for a pickleball paddle. And then of course the face as well is put on there. Gearbox is different. They do things very differently. Now, I don't know, it's not like I've been to their facilities, right, to see how they make them or wherever they're made or whatever. But what I do know is that these paddles are one solid piece. So hopefully the paddle's so dark, sometimes it's kind of hard to show it, but it's one solid chunk of material. So it's not necessarily a composite paddle, meaning that there are multiple pieces of stuff that's combined into one. It's one solid chunk. And when you hit the ball with these paddles, it is extremely different. Now, I don't want to go into my sort of personal experience. What I want to do is I want to try to explain the paddle objectively to see if it's something that would potentially resonate with you. So let me first show you the other one. This is another one that they sent me. This is the elongated version of the CX14. I think they have like specific names for these, but quite frankly, it just kind of confuses me. So I just say regular and elongated like that. Let me scoot back just a little bit so that you can see them. So this is the paddle that I play with though. Very standard, 8 inches wide, you know, typical length, that kind of thing. The handle itself is a little bit thicker than usual. The length is quite nice though for that 2-handed grip, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But the first thing right off the bat here, when you switch to a paddle like this, there is going to be a transition period. There's going to be a little bit of a tough road that you have to travel on for a while in order for you to get used to a paddle like this. I met Rafa actually at, I think it was Mid-South Regional here in McKinney, where I live, McKinney, Texas, which is north of Dallas. And I played with him and a couple other 5-0 guys. and I used these paddles, and it was terrible. Like when I first started playing with them, it was awful. I was all over the place. In particular, I was hitting shots extremely high up into the air, like way higher than usual. And the reason why that happened is because the ball, because of the way these paddles are constructed, the ball sticks on the face for a longer period of time. I don't know why. I don't know why this happens. But the ball has a tendency to stick to the face a little bit longer, and thus, when the paddle's coming through, it rockets the ball up into the air. It took me probably a solid week of just sort of drilling and playing casually for me to get used to that. But the result on the other end was, like I said, one of the best paddles that I have ever played with for doubles. For singles, not so much. This is one of the softest paddles I've ever felt. My game effectively revolves around two things: finesse and spin. I put spin on pretty much every single shot that I do in the game, whether it's topspin thirds or any kind of topspin cross-court dinking, but also of course backspin, and also my two-handed drive that I've been working on recently. The spin that you get from this paddle is quite extreme, and I am very pleased to announce that the texture on the face has not gone anywhere. The texture is completely uniform all the way down. I've been playing a lot with this paddle, been hitting a lot with this thing, and the texture has not gone anywhere. In terms of the material, most of the stuff that's involved with the construction of the paddle is the carbon fiber. That's the trend lately, and I don't think that's going away anytime soon. However, an extra layer of material is put on the front of the paddle to increase the spin. You know how it is these days. I've been talking about this for years, about how people need to start learning topspin. You have to start learning topspin. They are starting to make paddles for topspin, backspin too, but topspin in particular because it's way more effective. However, it's more difficult to do. So this paddle will definitely give you all of that spin. The stability of the paddle is also really something else. I mean, mishits are mishits, but where with my old paddle, I would notice that hitting a ball further out around the sweet spot would feel a little bit clunky. That is not the case with this Gearbox paddle. It's very, very different in that regard. And it was kind of shocking at first, because if you know me, I'm a big paddle technology skeptic. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I mean, maybe it's real. I would love to be proven wrong, but I'm just a skeptic at this point in time. It's great marketing language, okay? But there is something unique going on here that I can't quite describe and I can't quite explain. I just know that it works. But again, there's that transition period that you're going to have to get used to. Again, though, the softness is really something else. The dinking with this paddle is ridiculous. It feels so good. That sweet spot is absolutely perfect. It is perfect. It is the best sweet spot I have ever felt, regardless of the dink. Regardless, I have basically three different types of like forehand cross-court dinking that I do. I have a slice, kind of a forehand slice that comes cross like this if the ball gets out real wide. I have a forehand cross-court top spin right on if the ball's right in front of me, and I have a regular sort of flat dink, and they all feel amazing. Same thing on the backhand side. Now, there is one downside to this paddle. As I mentioned previously in the beginning of the video, I do not use this paddle for singles. I use the elongated version here for singles, and that's really great, but this is not a power paddle. You are not going to get the kind of power that you want from a paddle like this, and that's really the downside here. Can you get power on a paddle like this? Of course you can, of course, right? But you're not going to feel it. It doesn't feel aggressive. Again, it's different. It's different than what you've experienced previously. So You are the one that has to generate your own power. Having said all of that, one thing that I have not talked about publicly yet, I've been working on this behind the scenes, and my PK Academy members are going to get this first, but I have started working on a two-handed backhand. I strongly believe that the two-handed backhand is going to start becoming more important as time goes on, and with a paddle like this, it works perfectly. The hands fit beautifully on here like this, and the stroke feels great again on that backhand side with the face and with the overall feel of the paddle. The spin is amazing as well. Really, really, really good stuff. But the forehand isn't left behind at all. The forehand still feels great with the spin. But again, like the way you get to approach this paddle is from a finesse and a spin standpoint. I am not a very big guy at all. I do not win pickleball by overpowering people. That's not how it works. That's not how my game has to function. So the extra spin and the finesse that this paddle gives me is why I love it so much. Remember, my game is not yours, right? I try to not talk about myself too much on these videos. From the very beginning, I understood that, reviews have to be objective if they can be, but just remember, this paddle is very specific in that regard. The elongated version will give you more power, but you're not going to get that pop, guys. You're not going to get that incredible pop kind of feeling. The edge guard or lack of edge guard is something else. I'm going to try to put this up close to the camera. I hope that it will focus. So that's the wear and tear thus far. Looks pretty slick, doesn't it? I really hope you can see that because I'm gonna have to re-record if not. There are a couple of spots where there's a little bit of material coming off. Yes, right here. Right on the edge there. You may not be able to see it very well, but considering that I smack the court all the time with this paddle, it's held up really, really, really well. Now, it's an edgeless paddle, right? So you would expect that to be the case. The crazy thing about it though, guys, is that even with, look how thin this is. I think it's 14 millimeters, hence CX14, but look how thin that is. But it doesn't feel thin. It doesn't feel thin at all. It doesn't feel flimsy. It's incredibly stable, very, very soft. It's got a lot of sort of cushion to it. So the paddle looks clunky when you look at it, but it's not. It feels like the thickest core paddle on the market. So I've been incredibly pleased with the paddle. There is a transition period. Again, like I said, if you're coming from kind of a standard paddle, it'll take a while to get used to. Give yourself some patience in that regard. But yeah, guys, I love it. I absolutely love it. I am in love with this paddle. It's opened up a lot of avenues in my game that really weren't there previously. There is something to be said with the general development of paddles. If you're using a really old school paddle that's got that, the polymer core with the fiberglass face, and you go to a paddle like this where there's a lot of carbon fiber involved, you're going to have a different experience. The skill level of the player behind the paddle matters a lot more. However, sometimes when you do buy a new paddle, it can enable things that you didn't necessarily have previously. My serve, as an example, has completely changed to a more kind of lobby topspin serve from previously a more sort of flat and hard serve. Same thing with the drives. I've gone from more of a flat drive to a much more topspin heavy drive. I think I've gone on enough though. Big fan of this paddle. I think they've done an amazing job. The durability is great. The quality is really, really good. The face has not rubbed down at all. Really, really good stuff from Gearbox. Guys, I hope that review was helpful. You're gonna start seeing this paddle in my videos Now, do you use a Gearbox paddle? Let me know what you think. And as usual, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.